Hi, and welcome to For the Record with Jess. I'm Jess. Hello, it's me. Um, Thank you for coming to episode 5 and supporting the show. I'm really excited about the direction it's going to be moving forward in. No longer are we a podcast or exclusively a podcast. I've decided to make For the Record with Jess a segment on my YouTube channel to help me expand my creative expression and to be able to record more footage, create different video ideas, not limit it to me sitting here with the microphone and headphones. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I want to do so much with this idea on this show. And I feel really inspired, and I want to take advantage of the momentum of just interviewing my very first musician, a real life musician, artist, producer, overall creative, fabulous person. And that's going to come soon. I'm going to upload the interview footage here. But yeah, I'm really hyped about this project and this hobby that I want to invest a little bit more time and energy in, not let myself be defined by, you know, that you have to stay in one lane and you can never change your mind. You're always allowed to change your mind, especially if you're a creative person, especially if you're an adult. Please, you can make new decisions and make different choices and experiment and see what works best for you. So I'm excited to make For the Record with Jess a segment or a series that I will add into via YouTube, make posts about on my Instagram, tease on my TikTok. I really do like making content. It just makes me happy and it makes me feel creative because I don't view it as content. This is me recording a video and talking and compiling information and putting it together in a way that's easy to digest. Same with Instagram or TikTok, using elements of those mediums and being able to create something that captures people's attention is really fun. Like, it's cool to create stuff for me personally. It feeds something in my brain. It's work that I can do at any point in my life and that I want to continue to do because being able to look back on it when I'm older is going to be, I think a wonderful experience. But yes, wanted to get that stuff out of the way. I'm going to tease the interview a little bit. I got to interview Soojung, who is a musician, a creative. You can find them on Instagram and on TikTok, I believe on YouTube, and in all streaming platforms their music is located. I will post all of the links below. We the interview. I'm gonna post it now. I'm gonna share it. Thank you so much for checking out my podcast now series on YouTube. What else can I say? I don't know. Enjoy the interview, you guys. So we're live now. Hi, Soojung. Welcome to For the Record with Jess. That's me. And you're Soojung. You're the artist that we're interviewing for the first time ever on this show, on this segment. Ba-da-bum. Go ahead and tell the people where you're from.
Sure. Hi, Jess. Thanks for having me. My name's Soojung, and I'm from Phoenix, Arizona.
Yes, that is not in the Midwest, which is where I'm from. It's the Southwest.
Mhm.
Very different part of the nation. And we got connected through Instagram. Just
We did.
that's how, I don't know, we just kind of, I think we had somebody mutually connected.
Mhm. Yeah, I feel like that's usually what happens. There's like one person, and then they repost something we post, and then we find each other.
And we love that, the power of internet mutuals and just being able to meet other cool creative people. Um, yeah. And then you reached out to me, asked, hey, I have something exciting in the works and I would really like to talk about it on your podcast, which I'm really honored that you're here with me. I really can't believe it, but I can't think of a better project to talk about and a better artist to bring to the forefront with my little video podcast thing. So thank you again for being here.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. And I love talking about music with people who love music. So this is really special and I'm really excited to like dive in. And I'm like equally honored you agreed to chat with me about my music. So happy to be here.
Yes, the power of being a music nerd, which we're gonna get into. Obviously, I would could go on and talk about influences, but we're here mainly to talk about your creation and your artistry. So what I'd like to begin with is a snippet of what your Spotify bio says that you are working on or working with Southwest Korean American bootgays. I
Mm.
love that. But do you want to expand on that for the listeners or viewers?
Sure. So, this term came about. I was talking with one of my friends, and we were talking about how the song I put out earlier this year, "The Man of 3,000 Years," sounds a little like shoegazy, and that's what a lot of people were telling me. And I was like, "Yeah, we're just joking about like the Southwest and Arizona and it being boot gaze." And then we looked it up, and bootgaze is actually a real term for like it's like a subgenre of
No
country
way.
music. Yeah, and I was like, that's not what this is. This is a different thing. So, um, I didn't really have a specific genre that I liked creating in. I think like a lot of artists these days feel that way, where we kind of like taking elements from certain genres and then like uh transforming it into something that's our own. And so that's how Southwest Bootgaze came about as a meme, but it also, I think, is an accurate representation of the type of music I make.
Definitely taking something that already exists. I didn't even know that existed. The shoegaze I was very aware of, but bootgaze sounds insane.
Yeah,
Taking it and making it your own, adding your own flair to it, even if it is in meme style, I think that could catch on.
I think so. I
Yeah,
think just wait, after this, it'll be everywhere.
it will be. It'll take off. Bootgaze, I mean, country is so in. I mean,
Mhm.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
think you're ahead of the curve here with something. I also appreciated in your bio because I looked at that. It was very some people don't put a Spotify bio, which I think is, a missed opportunity to let new listeners in on what's going on behind the scenes. And you included the line inherited sorrows, folklores, and desperation. Yeah,
Mhm.
for something more. What are these sorrows? What are these folklores? There's a very like authory and writer kind of interest here. Can you talk about that?
Sure. So, the idea of inherited folklores or like family mythology is something that I've been exploring in my work for a really long time. Um, Oh my gosh, yeah, it's almost been 10 years now, but I started off writing mostly poetry.
Mm,
I think a lot of people who come from any form of like diasporic families or lineages know that like through the generations, certain stories change or they're shifted to fit like a certain narrative that's passed down, right? And so for me, I was getting like bits and pieces of stories and never really the full thing, or like they would give me some details one year and then like 2 years later they'd be like, oh, also this happened in the same. So what I was doing is I was just piecing a lot of different things together. And so I realized that a lot of like family stories, and I think a lot of people can relate to this, but so much of it is like mythology, right? Especially because so much of it is like oral storytelling. Um, and sometimes I would write about something that I thought happened in my family, and then
mm.
5 years later find out, that someone in my family told the story wrong, or that there's like a huge part that I missed that I didn't hear the first time, and I go, okay, well, this didn't happen the way that I thought it happened at all. And so that's just something that I've been exploring through my work. And then in my songwriting, I think that's something that I've been looking at with my family, but also just with myself and my own memories. And I think the mythos that I create with my own experiences, like, because I really like the idea that as we remember, we are actively creating something, like we're actively creating a memory. And so that's something that I really play with in my songwriting, where I'm like, this is how it happened to me and that is my reality. Is that like an objective, third person point of view? Not necessarily, but to me, that is my own mythology and how I interpret it, um, and how I choose to share my story as well.
What sticks out to me in that is the word fragment, like fragments. I
Hmm.
also have a very splintered or fragmented view of my lore, as it
Hmm.
were, the my mythos, where I come from, the family tree, because I don't know if your family knows, probably most likely colonialism. Uh, just the whitewashing of certain stories through violence and like the conquest of other countries, and then being a first generation, resident here, your stories, they get, filtered through so many people's lenses, and artifacts go missing, like metaphorical and real physical artifacts that are
Yeah.
part of our lineage, our history. And I think it's so important to take ownership of that, to try with the power of memory and with the power of listening to collect those stories from the sources. And
Hmm.
even though it may be an oral recollection and not always perfect, it's still way more authentic than borrowing or listening to, the textbooks, what they would say, or, some guy who visited, some place, got inspired and said, I'll write the next great American novel based in not here, using
Hmm.
other people as characters, not real people.
Hmm.
Um, And I got to listen to the EP, and I definitely hear your voice coming through and mentioning the voices around you that maybe raised you or influencing your position on certain topics and themes that we're going to explore later as we go through the songs and the track list. But that definitely stuck out to me, that you have a root in poetry and storytelling. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about coming into music versus being a poet, or if there's any overlap in being in theater, working in music as a medium. I'm also a theater kid, and I'd love to hear how you transitioned into this form of communication.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that question. I've always been singing, always been performing. My mom is a pianist. She played at the churches and was like a music director. And so I think just always music has been very prevalent in my life. Her father also was like a pianist and he played the organ and things like that. And my uncle plays guitar. Everyone in my family sort of um loves music. Everyone in my
Mm.
family loves music. A lot of people play, and so that was always a big part of my life. Um, I started out doing theater when I was 13, and so I did musical theater for a while. That's what I studied when I was in school, and then I worked in professional theater for a little bit. And it was kind of at the point where I was like, not dissatisfied, but I knew that I wasn't expressing myself fully in my creativity and in my storytelling because, when you're an actor on stage, you're literally saying someone else's words, you're playing a character, that sort of thing. And I think I was kind of frustrated with the kind of roles that I was being pushed for. So like it was a lot of like
Mhm.
comedic roles, which is fine. I love joking. I love being a jester. But then, when it's obviously very like uh racially motivated. It's kind of like I don't
Mhm.
want to do this anymore. And I was kind of feeling that way and just being upset with the industry a little bit right before the pandemic started. And then so when the pandemic did start and we went into quarantine, I was really forced to not do theater for the first time in years because
Wow.
from when I was like 18 to 22, I was doing just nonstop like back-to-back shows and I didn't really have the time to like sit and be like, do I like doing this? Like, is this something I enjoy? Because I was just doing it. Um, and then also at the same time, I was performing at like slam poetry events and
Mm.
writing poetry on the side, and I got to express myself that way. Um, so then when I decided to shift into songwriting. It felt very like natural, I think, because I had already been writing poetry and performing. Um, and so I got to explore like songwriting as just a slightly different medium from poetry. I felt like in my poetry, so much of it was about family and so much of it was about imperialism and like explicitly very political. Whereas with my songwriting, I got to write about crushes and like being in love and those things that are also political, but it felt a little more like um I guess like more diary than like unpacking the world around. Mhm.
I totally understand that. Maybe poetry had one sphere of your mind and songwriting kind of expanded on your own. I love the cinematic universe that we create and have. That songwriting, because it does lend itself to more of a journal diary perspective, to being a little bit, I don't love using this word, but flowery. I don't know how. It's like just a little bit more romantic in our reflections, a little bit more emo, if you will. Um, that's really interesting. I had no idea that you were like a working artist in theater. So you had graduated from college with that as your interest, as your major.
Yeah, and then I did a minor in Asian Pacific American Studies, and so I think that created a nice little overlap.
That's a good package set, but really inconvenient right before the pandemic. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. So it goes. It wasn't the worst thing to happen.
No.
But
One door
yeah,
closes, a thousand will open is something that I say.
exactly. Yeah.
And we're so grateful for it because I was looking at your music that you had listed. I see a few singles, nothing, no EPs, no albums yet, no compilations or anything. And they did say 2021. Is that when you first started releasing your music, or do you have songs that are hidden from us?
Oh gosh, I'm like, when was that? I think it was 2021. I think that's when I first started releasing singles. Yes, because the first song I released it maybe like a week after my dad passed, and
Oh
that
my
was in
goodness.
2021. And actually, I think that's coming up in like 2 days now. I'm like, wow. So yeah, that was like 3 years ago, almost exactly. I started releasing music.
Grief really does show up in songwriting.
Yeah.
Um, wow, that's an anniversary, I guess. I apologize once again. I'm a little
It's
awkward
all
about time.
good.
Moving on.
Anyway.
uh, yeah. We could get into the EP. First of all, for myself and for the listeners, what the hell is an EP?
Yes, it is an electronic project. Basically, it's kind of just like a mini album. I think like an official album is like seven or more songs, and since it's less, it's very arbitrary, but an EP is basically like a collection of songs.
Yeah, that's what I figured. I also know that an LP and EP, when music was recorded to vinyl directly, it just indicated a different size of storage space, like
Mm,
a longer play record versus like a shorter and extended play. I don't know, but it's one of those words that gets thrown around in the music sphere that part of this journey is to kind of break down like the gatekeeping of like words like that so that,
mm,
anybody can get involved with music listening,
yeah.
creation, and participation. Your first EP, your debut, is called Unbloom.
Yes.
Yes. And I got to listen to it. Thank you so much. I have had to listen to it a few times. I'm really glad that it's kind of a short and sweet package, but within every track, there's just so much to delve into. There's a lot of detail, a lot of vocal layering, a lot of different like stacking of different sounds.
Mm.
Um, Overall, what inspired you to create this?
I think as I was writing these songs and then deciding what songs I wanted to put out, these were all just songs that kind of spoke to me as like an end to something or an end to my youth.
Hmm.
Uh, and so the idea of like unbloom, that's like from the first line of Baby's Breath, which I started writing in 2021. And there's like a demo for it from like 2022, and then I kind of just put it on the back burner. Um, but all the songs I thought of like, okay, as youth is coming to a wrap, what's sort of like a thesis statement or like a thing that I want to say about the end of that as I transition into like more of like my adulthood. And so each of the songs are kind of like well, except for record player. That's a different song. But the first three songs are kind of like a farewell to certain parts of my life, and then like also kind of a greeting to a
Seven.
new
Okay.
one, which I
Yes.
think
Mm,
so I'm like right at the end of my mid 20s, heading into
mm,
late 20s. I'm very excited for my 30s. I think it'll be a great time. I've heard nothing but good things about people's 30s, so I'm
okay.
thrilled.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I am 29 and I was curious because there is a difference between the early 20s, the mid 20s and the late 20s with like how you value yourself and how
Yeah.
much you're willing to bend for other people who you think are going to bend the same way.
Hmm.
And I think that unbloom is a really strong statement rather than blooming. I think that could be at the beginning of your youth, of your freedom and independence, but to unbloom isn't something that's insignificant or, you know, death. It's just a new chapter. And even death itself is a new stage, a new chapter in
Hmm.
art, in nature. Something needs to leave in order for something new to take its place. And the first three tracks on your EP, I would agree that they're a farewell, they're a reflection, they're a statement, they're they're just really excellent.
Oh, thank
Super hypnotizing and ethereal. Uh but let me not leave out record player. I think that one should be playing in storefronts. Like
you.
it's just so it reminds me so much of 2010s indie sleaze, just cute track, just ding 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 ding. I really love that one.
Oh, thank you.
um do you have any, okay, how about, what is the process like? Do you think of the song first, or does the sound of the song come first for you?
That's a good question. I think lyrics usually come first, and then I'll build a production around it, or I'll play on piano or something. But with specifically record player, because that's the only track that I didn't produce on the EP, I just started out with a line. It was like, don't say you love the record unless you want to connect off it. Because I was like, oh, that's like a cool double entendre. Um, and then I built out the rest of the song from there. And then I was like, ooh, I think this could have a fun kind of like funky, upbeat feel because I was like, Unbloom is beautiful because I had the three songs on Unbloom so far, but I was like, I need a banger. I need like one up-tempo song on this project, but I didn't have it in me. Like I didn't feel like that's what I wanted to make.
Mm.
So, I messaged my friend Joe, who's a collaborator on this project already, and I was like, can you please produce something fun for this? And they did, and then they rewrote the second verse, and then I did another edit of it, and then so it was a really fun like collaboration. Um, but I think that's probably my first time doing something like that. Usually I'll like sit down at the piano or like open Logic, which is like the like
The
music production.
program.
Yeah, the
It
DAW, as they say. Um, but yeah, and go from there. But that's usually what I do.
Yeah, it sounds like you're super involved. Did you already know how to play instruments or how to mix and work with that software, or did you teach yourself like during the pandemic?
Yeah, I've been learning. So I've been learning from producer and songwriter Bradley from AZ. They were the first person who really taught me like about Logic, and like playing around in GarageBand and that sort of thing. And then I've learned just collaborating with other people. So one of my songs from 2022 was mixed by DJ Q down in Tucson. And so I got to watch them in their process. And they mix and do all their production in Ableton, which is a different type of
Mhm.
software. But I was able to sort of like pick their brain and see how they do it, and then continuing to learn from Bradley from AZ and just being in conversation with other community artists. I did not learn how to use Logic Pro by myself. There's no like I am not a like sit and watch YouTube tutorials person. I cannot do that. I really have to like actively have someone else there with me. And then I also got to learn from Sean Harold in Limerick, who sort of taught me how to like side chain and do certain things with my vocals. So it's an ongoing process, I think, for sure.
I think that makes it even more like exciting that you get to develop and test out different ways of playing with music creation. Let it be your vocals or the piano that you mentioned. It's all an experiment. And I think that makes it exciting and not a stagnant, static sort of production. It's not factory made music, it's feeling, emotion, growth, error, trial and error based, which can really result in very authentic sounds and connect with people who thought that maybe their experience was a little niche.
Mhm.
So, and I certainly felt connected to your work, especially the first song, Baby's Breath.
Mhm.
Ah, well, I felt connected to all of them, I'm being honest. They all really resonated with me, but I'm like, I love shoegaze. I love ethereal music. This is where the music nerd comes out. I was picking up influences of maybe Bjork, maybe Kate Bush. Who else did I write here? Florence. There's something a little spooky and haunted. I also wrote Imogen Heap, who
Mhm.
like just the synth in your third track. I think it's called Did You? I
Mhm.
was like, ooh, hey. We were kind of walking. The progression of the EP for me is we're walking, we're contemplating through the garden of flowers that are dying. And then we went underwater with Lighthouse, and we come straight up like a helium balloon with Did You? And record player is walking into the music store like, wow, what a wonderful adventure I just had.
Oh,
And
that's beautiful.
well, it was
Wow.
your work. I think it really unfolds wonderfully.
Oh,
And
thank
I
you.
cannot wait for other people to check it out.
Mhm.
You're gonna release the EP on November 15th, correct?
Yes.
Can we expect any visuals or anything else in the works to follow that?
Yes, Baby's Breath is going to get a music video directed by Gail Tomenbang, from Phoenix. So excited. And then I think we're also working on some visuals for some of the other songs as well, but we'll keep you
Mm,
updated on
mm.
that.
I'm excited to see what I picture in my brain versus what the artist and your team will create. If it matches up or if it's different, it's just part of it being like alive. Music is so alive, and it it just builds opportunity. I think people in a similar way that theater does, like
Mhm.
what you read on the script versus how it actually looks and how it feels night after night when you close. It's so exciting and beautiful, and a reminder that the ephemeral is also valid, even though it doesn't last
Abs-
forever. Yeah, even
True.
though it doesn't last forever. It doesn't have to because I have the memory of it.
Mm.
Circling back to what you said about
Here we
memory,
go.
it all it all works together. All right. I'm gonna we're gonna we're gonna end it soon.
Okay.
Where can people find you? Where do you post your stuff? And any advice for surviving the winter blues?
Ooh, yes. Well, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Soojung Soup, and also on YouTube, I think also as Soojung Soup, or on my website www.soojungsoup.com. Um, and I'm very excited for everyone to listen to this project. It will be on all streaming services, and then we'll also have zines and CDs available at the shows we play, and maybe for shipping soon. We shall see. I will be the one packing them myself. So we'll see how much energy I have with the winter blues. And I think my tips, I don't have tips for the winter blues, I'll be honest. We're in Arizona.
Oh
So
my God, you're
I'm
right.
having the time of my life right now. Like, it's so sweet. I'm able to go outside and I'm having a great time. So I feel like giving any tips to people in the Midwest or in Chicago is like insulting. Um, but stay warm. Stay warm out there.
We will definitely try to. I totally forgot that not everyone else suffers like we do. Ugh.
Mhm.
Well, maybe go visit your friends who are not in the Midwest.
Hey, come to Arizona.
Come to Arizona. Go to Arizona, go see a show. Because I'm assuming that if we want to catch you live performing, right now it's going to be local to where you're at. Unless you're on a tour.
We're working on something, maybe, which hopefully we'll have more information about probably early next year. So keep an eye out. Follow me on the socials and also follow Jess
Oh, thank you for
for more content.
more content. Listen, we're figuring it out. You never know. But it was a real pleasure to talk to you and to get to know you, to learn a little bit more behind the scenes on what goes into producing something that we get to access with our fingertips nowadays. And yeah, I hope that we get to chat again. Maybe we can check in on how it's been going on. But yeah, thank you for being on my show for the record with Jess. And I will add your socials and everything. But I think that's it. We're gonna you're gonna wave bye now.
Yay, bye. Thank you.